Ray said it in the break room at 5:42 a.m. When coffee is a personality and the fluorescent hum makes everyone honest. "I'm done with split shifts, Eli," she said, rolling her suitcase over the yellow floor stripe you're not supposed to cross with wheels. Alden doesn't even know what a night differential is. His calendar has commas. Alden Pike, angel investor, brand of teeth. A man whose phone never tells him to clock back in. He'd been a rumor in Ray's inbox, then a lunch, then a photo of her on a balcony that looked like it had never met rain. "You're leaving before the next storm cycle?" I asked, because the radar on my second monitor showed a spiral nobody wanted to believe in yet. She checked her watch like it owed her interest. "He's flying to the islands. I'm not spending another week smelling ozone and diesel." "You won't smell anything from 30 floors up," I said, "except when the generator fails." She laughed, soft and cruel. "You fix broken poles, Eli. He moves markets." She kissed my cheek like she was returning a borrowed book and was gone. Suitcase wheels humming the same note as the lights. Split shift means you're nobody's morning and nobody's night. It's the 6 to 2, 10 to 6 shuffle that leaves you blinking at both sunsets. It's field calls for downed lines and console time with SCADA when the wind starts to mean it. I don't mind. I like the feel of names carved into assets. Feeders, reclosers, sectionalizers. Things the city relies on without knowing the words. At 7:15, the operations room filled up the way it does when barometers fall. Slow at first, then all at once. Mutual aid emails started getting CE'd to me. The map board, a patchwork quilt of circuits that only looks like art if you can read it, glowed greener than truth. Morgan Chan slid into the chair next to mine. Night hair, day eyes, a frown that could measure wind speed. "Did you make coffee or sins?" she asked, pouring some of mine anyway. "Both," I said. "What's the model say?" She flicked through projected tracks with a pencil like she could nudge them a mile inland on attitude alone. "Cat 2 if the Gulf stays cooler. Cat 3 if we pretend it's not 2025. I nodded at the feeder list. Hospitals first, then water, then comms. Same hymn, different storm. Morgan's elbow bumped my forearm in the way colleagues do when they're saying "I trust you" without saying it. "And Ray?" "Traded reclosers for reservations," I said. 9-figure calendar. She made a face. "Do commas keep the lights on?" "For some people," I said. "Until the storm decides who gets to speak." By noon, the Emergency Ops Center wanted seat assignments. Morgan got her badge and the right to bully us with her voice. I got assigned field liaison. Bounce between consoles and poles, translate what the wind was doing into what crews could do safely. We printed the ICS forms, plugged radios into chargers, wrote names on gaffer tape. You can tell how big a storm will be by how quiet the room gets when the printer jams. Alden's Tower put out a press release about a charity gala on Thursday. Raising funds for resilience. The photo had him on a roof with a champagne flute and a skyline that doesn't know its own weight. Ray was in the edge of the frame, blurred by bokeh, mouth just open like she'd found a better language. Morgan tilted her head at the screen. "They planning to hold that in a hurricane watch?" "They plan a lot of things," I said. At 3, we held our tailboard in the yard. Crews in hard hats, sleeves rolled, faces already carrying the storm. I went over backfeed, chainsaw discipline, the part where you don't become the story because your boots forgot about a downed neutral. Miguel, yes, every system has a Miguel, asked if we could requisition better ponchos. I said no and brought out the good radios. Morale is measured in batteries, not slogans. Night half of the split began at 10, but I didn't leave. The first bands on radar look like a lie until they arrive in your nose. The front door wedged itself open on wind you felt in molars. Morgan handed me a granola bar without comment and slid a stack of outage tickets toward me. "Prioritize by street slope," she said. "Flood follows gravity, so should we." "Copy," I said, because in storm language that means I won't argue. At 1:07 a.m., a text from a number Ray hadn't used with me before. A balcony selfie, the ocean behind her, a caption that read, "He has an actual calendar concierge, Eli." I didn't respond. The radio chirped, "Recloser lockout on feeder 12, possible tree across 2 phases, no sparks." The storm doesn't pause for selfies or commas. It writes its own schedule and calls whatever name it wants. The cone shifted at dawn. It always does. Just far enough to make everyone with a deck believe in luck and everyone with a low-slung ranch go buy batteries. EOC raised activation to level 2. The mayor did the podium thing where they invent the now famous phrase you wish you didn't have to hear so many times. Out of an abundance of caution. I ran my half shift on the console, then traded my chair for a bucket truck. There's a kind of quiet that rides ahead of a storm, a feeling like the city is listening to its own wiring. We leapfrogged down Westinghouse Ave, clearing small branches before they could pretend to be big ones. Miguel handled the saw like a dance partner. I kept a hand on the neutral because old habits know when to show off. "Look, Jefe," Miguel said, chin at the sky. A drone, over the river district. Slick, black, board. "Press," I guessed. "Or influencers," he said, which is a kind of press with better lighting. At noon, Alden's PR team posted a drone shot from his gala roof. "Pool America, skyline confessional, caption about resilience you could set your watch by." Comments clapped. A private chef arranged oysters that hadn't agreed to this. The algorithm went to church. Morgan pinged me from the EOC. "Tell your boyfriend Alden to cancel." The emoji was a hurricane with teeth. I texted back a photo of our feeder map that looked like a quilt mid-argument. "He's not mine," I wrote, "but I'll ask the wind to send him a save the date." By 3, gusts were honest. The first outage cluster did what clusters do, immediately call their friends. We reclosed twice on feeder 7, then locked it out when the third try told truth. I logged the fault current, the bad angle of the pine that chose the wrong side of gravity, the address where a woman on oxygen asked if battery packs lied. "We'll move you if we have to," I told her. "We're not heroes, we're logistics." Morgan's voice in my radio. "Hospital backup fuel deliveries staged. Prioritize the river lift stations after." "Copy." The quiet satisfaction when people say "copy" like one syllable can be a steel beam. At 4:30, Ray posted a boomerang of champagne. The caption, "Storm party before the storm party." She'd never been good at reading rooms with concrete in their bones. I pocketed the phone and checked my harness again instead. You can have feelings or footing. Pick one on the ladder. Dusk fell like a power meter. Brown gold, then gray, then a kind of blue that tastes like salt even if you're inland. We crewed up by parish lines to avoid crossing into Brother Utilities territory without permission. Mutual aid is a religion that punishes heresy. The first transformer popped like a snare drum in a stadium. Kids squealed indoors. Dogs decided the couch was their idea. We got a call on a back road 2 towns over. Pole snapped, live wire down across a 2-lane, car abandoned at an angle that made the hood look like it was praying. We staged 2 blocks out, flares talking for us. "Back feet?" Miguel asked, eyes at the farm with a generator that probably came with lies. "Assume it," I said. We grounded like the book, like the funeral director has asked us to. The farmer appeared, drunk on adrenaline and not much else. "I can power the block," he announced. No, I said without volume. You can kill the block. He deflated the way pride does when it meets physics. We cleared, tagged, and moved on. At 8:11 p.m., the EOC requested that we swing by a high-rise on the East Bluff to verify their transfer switch install. New tech, private install, not on our registry, Morgan said. Building claims they can island. I don't trust the press release. The address, Pike Tower. Of course it was. We rolled into the loading dock while security tried to perform authority with a flashlight. Inspection, I said, not offering a smile. The house engineer met us in the mechanical room, breath already defensive. It's state-of-the-art, he said, showing us a glossy manual. The ATS looked glossy too, which is not the same as compliant. Who signed off? I asked. He named a reseller whose website was mostly vibes. I looked for the stamped letter, the coordination study, the protective relay settings. He offered PDFs and adjectives. Morgan texted me mid-check. Rain bands over the river in 90. Get out clean. I sent back a photo of the ATS nameplate and a thumbs down. She replied with a skull and the words, "Don't let them backfeed us." In the elevator lobby, Ray appeared like a newscast. Hair perfect. Dress that thinks about gravity and laughs. "Eli?" she said, equal parts surprise and nostalgia she hadn't earned. "Just checking the finger that points at the moon," I said, nodding at the transfer switch. She looked at the gray cabinets and shrugged. "That's for men with clipboards. Those are the men who know if your candles are romantic or necessary," I said. "You sound jealous," she said. "Of oxygen?" I asked. She tilted her head. "You could have climbed out of that job." I thought about feeder 12 and a woman's battery packs. "I climb a lot," I said, "just not what you meant." The wind took the door then, yanking it like it wanted the hinges as a souvenir. Somewhere across town, a breaker decided it was tired of being brave. The storm had started to move the pieces on our board. It wasn't playing favorites. Not yet. Landfall is a word reporters like. For crews, it's a slow argument that turns into a fast one. The first hour after the eye wall grazes you is the rattle. The second hour is the failure. After that, you're living inside a simple math problem with wet variables. Prioritize, isolate, restore, repeat until the map resembles a city again. By 2 a.m., 3 feeders were dark, 3 limping. The EOC went from tidy to orchestra pit. The comms table ran out of outlets. Morgan's voice lifted above the room without shouting. "Hospital on 3A is on gen, fuel at 12 hours. Water treatment needs one of 2 pumps. Comms node at Holly Ridge is flaking." She pushed laminated maps like playing cards. "Pike Tower?" I asked, hating myself for asking. She flicked to a smaller map. "They claim they're on island now." Her face arranged itself into skepticism. "They're not on our islanding registry. If they are, they did it with an ATS and a prayer." "Prayer doesn't have overcurrent protection," I said. She cracked a smile, then killed it. "Get some food," she ordered. We hit the south side where the grid always wears less makeup and tells the truth. A tree the size of a budget meeting lay across 2 spans. You learn to see understory damage by the way wire hum changes. We cut, we set a temporary, we made it safe. Miguel told a joke about the difference between a city councilman and a raccoon. One can be deterred by a lid. And we laughed like it was oxygen. Back on the East Bluff, the ATS at Pike Tower sent a dispatch to our SCADA backend that looked like a teenager's signature. Confident, but meaningless. The house engineer texted me a photo of a green light, as if that were a talisman. "We're good," he wrote. I wanted to reply, "We'll be the judge." But the river lift station alarm went from yellow to red. Water is a better lobbyist than a penthouse. We rolled to the lift. The backup gen had sputtered itself into shame. I manually reset the control, babied it into sync, felt it catch. The sound of a pump remembering who it is can make you cry in your truck where no one can see. We logged it, sent the data back to EOC, and moved. At 4:27, the storm did the thing it always does, to make everyone forget they are sophisticated mammals. It took the lights from 1,000 houses at once. My radio turned into a chorus of addresses. Dispatchers are composure with headsets. You can hear tears sometimes, but you can't make them. We were closing a bypass on feeder 6 when the call came from a number marked private. I let it go to voicemail because I was hands on a hot stick. Then it came again. And again. Finally, I thumbed it over to my ear while Miguel set a cone where God could see it. Eli? Ray? Smaller, stripped of commas. It's our building. My neighbor's dad. He's on oxygen. Jen says online, but the outlets are dead. Alden's people can't get the house engineer to answer. Security keeps saying islanded. No one answers the EOC number from the website. What do I do? The storm had chosen. It said my name with her voice. Don't plug anything into random outlets, I said. Stay out of stairwells. If he's got portable tanks, use them. If not, we get him out. There's no elevator, she said. 28 floors, she whispered, like the number had bad breath. I put her on speaker and keyed the radio. EOC, this is Bravo 3. I've got an oxygen dependent at Pike Tower, island claim not verified, generator within building, ATS questionable. Request EMS assist and priority check on transfer status. Possible life safety. Morgan's voice, immediate. Copy. EMS en route. Bravo 3, can you assess? After we close on 6, I said, looking at Miguel, who nodded before I finished the sentence. We closed. We rolled. We wove through city trees that had decided to lie down. We parked where the overhang wouldn't turn our truck into a ship. Security tried the flashlight act again. Miguel just walked past like he has a cloak of invisibility. Emergency, he said. Practice not stopping us. 28 floors on legs that have run 2 shifts is a religion you don't want to join. We climbed in the stale heat, passing people inventing fans out of menus. On 17, a kid with a pug asked if the storm had a name. They always have names, I said. Doesn't mean they know you. He nodded very seriously and held the dog like a secret. On 28, we found Ray and a man with lungs that had signed a bad lease. I switched him to a portable with hands that have changed more fuses than diapers. Ray held the door, crying without drama. The outlets are dead, she kept saying, as if repetition could turn electricity into something you could apologize to. The ATS room was on 16. You can smell a lie in the heat profile of a panel. We cracked the door. The switch sat in island mode, lights declaring triumph, contactors probably thinking about brunch. But the downstream distribution panel was dark, dead, a silence with a smell. Manual transfer failed, Miguel said, or they never commissioned, or the breakers tripped and no one knew to reset with the load staged. Or all 3, I said. I called Morgan. Your tower is an island with no boats, I said. We need a commissioning tech and a conscience. She didn't laugh. EMS has your oxygen guy. Get him down. I've got the building official headed there with the insurer. Do not energize something you don't trust. Ray grabbed my sleeve in the stairwell. You know how to fix this, she said, accusation and awe fighting for the same mouth. I know how not to make it worse, I said. That's what you hire in a storm. She swallowed. Alden said, I don't care what Alden said. Below us, the storm kept plucking wires like it owned the song. It didn't know names, not really. It only knew hands. Tonight, mine had work. The building official arrived with the look people get when they've argued with a mayor in a stairwell. The insurer sent a woman with a laptop that only opens for truth. The house engineer materialized sweaty and defensive. The indicator says, islanded. He kept repeating. The man on oxygen says otherwise, the insurer replied, not looking up. We staged the patient transfer. Firefighters with legs like gods carried the stretcher down with a ballet that makes you believe in tax dollars. Ray followed, whispering sorry to the stairwell every third landing like maybe concrete can forgive quicker than people. In the ATS room, I traced the downstream. The main distribution had tripped, probably because someone tried to energize everything at once when the gen came online. You stage critical loads first, I said to no one I expected to listen. Then you bring the pretty back. Can you reset it? The house engineer asked, like a drowning man asking if you could teach the ocean manners. Not without load shedding and a commissioning report, I said. I'm not turning a breaker into a weapon. The insurer glanced at Morgan on speaker. We need chain of custody on this ATS, she said. Who installed it? Who signed? Who coordinated? Coverage is not in the business of funding wishful thinking. Morgan, copy. Building official, you have authority to shut down event spaces until compliance? The official smiled without joy. I wrapped the ribbon myself. We did what storms let you do. Good enough in the right direction. We got the oxygen man to the EMS bus and then the hospital that still had diesel. We staged a portable gen on the 28th floor for the worst cases with cords approved by someone who can read gauge. We told people to pee with doors open because ventilation is a health policy when the elevator sleeps. Ray sat on the stairs next to me while Miguel finished the cord routing. Her dress had surrendered to humidity. I thought strong meant, not this, she said, gesturing to my hands, the muck, the smell. Strong means choosing the boring thing that keeps people alive, I said. It's not good television. She pressed her palms together like a prayer with no words. I said terrible things to you. Yeah, I said. You did. I'm sorry, she said. And I believed her in the way you believe a tide chart. It says what it can. It can't promise your day. The EOC called a meeting on a sidewalk because the building's lobby smelled like a lie and mold. Alden arrived with a raincoat that looked like a lawsuit. He shook the official's hand like PR. He offered me a gratitude that was mostly posture. We'll take care of our own, he said. And the insurer darkened one shade on the color wheel of disdain. We're all our own tonight, I said. He blinked at me like I'd told him the market was closed on personality. We had permits, he said, immediately making it untrue. The official tapped his clipboard. You had PDFs. You didn't have commissioning. You didn't have testing. You had adjectives. Alden's jaw flexed. This is not the time to point fingers. It is exactly the time, the insurer said. After the storm, it is the time to write checks. Morgan's voice in my ear. Eli, I'm bumping Pike Tower's ATS investigation to priority after hospitals and water. If they ask for your name, tell them the one the storm used. What's that? I asked, tired enough to humor poetry. She was quiet a second. The one the oxygen man's daughter sobbed into when she said thank you. I looked at Ray. Her eyes were red, but leveled. What? She asked. Nothing, I said. Let's get you to wherever you planned on sleeping. I want to help, she said. Then carry batteries, I said, and she did. We ran the rest of the night like a relay. Crews swapped at dawn. My hands shook holding a styrofoam cup. Morgan materialized with a dry shirt like a magic trick. "You good?" she asked. "Define," I started, then stopped. She lifted an eyebrow. "I'm hungry," I said instead. "Eat," she ordered. "Then come to the EOC. The board wants to pretend a tower is a hospital." "I'll bring my quiet voice and my mean face," I said. "Bring the truth," she said. The storm did the rest. The EOC smells like coffee and other people's panic. It's where you learn that power is a stack of verbs, not a podium. We sat at a folding table that had hosted 100 petty tyrannies and a few miracles. The board chair of Pike Tower dialed in on a screen the size of a door. Alden flanked him like a brand. "Status," the chair said, because chairs always say status first. The building official ran through it. Island attempt without registry, ATS without commissioning, life safety compromised, event spaces shuttered. The insurer added coverage words that carry knives: reservation of rights, non-compliant components, denial if proximate cause. Alden tried charm. "We raised $500,000 for resilience last night," he said. "You endangered people while selling safety," the insurer replied. "That's not a symmetry we reward." The chair looked at me like I hadn't earned being looked at. "You," he said. "You're the one who got our resident down." "Me and a lot of other names," I said. "But yes." "What do you want?" he asked, which is what rich people say when they think they can buy back gravity. "A public remediation plan," I said. OEM stamped ATS with commissioning you can hand to a judge. A registry entry so you can island without killing a lineman. Priority goes to hospitals and water before towers with pools. And a dashboard the tenants can read with green, yellow, red that doesn't lie. "Anything else?" he asked, bored. "A vendor restitution pool," I said, thinking of the small shops bullied into installing equivalent, because a buyer learned that word. You squeezed little guys to say yes to adjectives. Pay them back to do it right. Morgan slid a one-pager across the table. "She is what happens when fairness learns to draft. Add lifeguard staffing for any amenity use during outage," she said. "Add a training requirement for your staff that does not involve a drone." Alden looked at me and saw the only lever in the room he didn't own. "And you?" he said. "You want a consultant fee?" "I want a seat until it's done," I said. "Storm liaison. I tell you what the wires say. You do it. Then I leave." The chair pinched the bridge of his nose, which is what people do when they don't want to say fine. "Fine," he said. Outside, the rain had decided to try one more time to win. We ate something called breakfast that tasted like duty. Morgan walked with me to the stairwell like we had always done that. "9-figure calendar," she said, nodding toward Alden's disappearing back. "Split shifts," I said, looking at my hands. "No commas." She took my palm, turned it over like a tech inspecting a connector. "These hands kept a man breathing," she said. "We can buy our own commas." Ray texted a photo of a cardboard box. "Dresses folded where pride used to stand." "I'm going to my sister's," she wrote. "I'm not asking you for anything." I typed, "Good." I typed, "Be safe." I typed, "The storm picked who mattered." I sent only, "Take care, Ray." We spent the afternoon at the tower, shedding load like a diet you commit to in public. Critical floors first, emergency lighting, medical devices, stairwell fans. We brought the ATS out of its mood and into an engineer's sequence. A commissioning tech arrived who actually liked manuals. His hands touched the panel the way a mechanic touches a hood when he's decided to be kind. By sunset, Certain outlets had the right to be called outlets again. Tenants charged phones while crying on FaceTime. The oxygen man's daughter tried to give me $20. Buy a battery for someone else, I said, and she nodded like the world had explained something. Alden found us by the panel, humility on layaway. Thank you, he said. It sounded like he'd practiced. We're not done, I said. You're going to buy less pretty and more safe. He nodded. Ray says, Ray is not my storm, I said, and he closed his mouth around whatever he'd meant to say. Morgan leaned against the cinder block and watched. You done collecting apologies for today? She asked. It's a subscription model, I said. Auto-renews until the dashboard is green. She laughed, and it sounded like an outage map healing. Storm work teaches you to love boredom. 2 days after landfall, the maps were more spring than winter. We rode with mutual aid out of state. Guys who tell jokes with county names you've never heard. We swapped stories about the dumbest generator backfeed we'd ever seen. A man tried to power his house with a lawnmower alternator. It did not go well. We ate groceries in a parking lot like kings of very small kingdoms. The remediation plan went public on a website that used to sell rooftop sunsets. Tenants bookmarked it like weather. Green dot for ATS commissioning, yellow for lifeguards, red for anything that smelled like a lawsuit. The comments were kind until they weren't. Kind is cheap when the lights are on. Ray texted a paragraph that was mostly verbs: left, learned, packed, apologized. She did not ask me to meet. I did not ask her to regret. The storm had sanded us both down to true. Morgan invented training that people wanted to attend. She called it boring that saves you. She made execs flip transfer switches on mock panels until their arms remembered. She showed photos of burned plugs and told stories with names removed. She did not say, I told you so. She did not have to. Alden resisted the vendor restitution pool for 4 emails and then wired the money with a note about leadership. He even said the word advice to me once, without choking on it. Progress looks like a powerful man learning to sit in the audience. That evening, we walked the block where the tree had pulled down feeder 7. The homeowner had set the wood aside in a neat stack with a note. For Cruz. Miguel cried laughing when he saw it and loaded 3 logs anyway. Winter's coming, he said, somewhere. On a porch with battery-powered candles, the oxygen man's daughter waved me over. Her dad sat upright, color better than any breaker. He wants to say your name right, she said. Eli, I said. He repeated it with care and squeeze. You showed up, he said. That's all I remember. That's all I did, I said. Morgan waited by the truck, hands in pockets the way people do when they want to touch and don't. You okay? She asked. I'm tired in the right direction, I said. She nodded. Good. Tomorrow the insurer wants you in a room with suits to explain why commas don't keep elevators moving. Will there be cookies? I asked. There will be consequences, she said. Bring your appetite. The room with suits had air conditioning you could cut with a form letter. The insurer led with facts. The building official added nouns. I told a story about a breaker that became a hero when we let it not be a killer. Alden listened, really listened, like maybe adulthood was contagious. What prevents this from happening again? The chair asked. Humility, I said, before the others could say hardware. And hardware. We locked the plan. OEM components, registered islanding, drills, a public dashboard that wouldn't be allowed to wear adjectives, a standing role for storm liaison whenever watches turned to warnings. I tried to hand it back. They tried to keep me. We compromised on a retainer that felt like a thank you without a leash. After in the hallway, Alden stopped me. "I thought power was simple," he said. "It is," I said. "It's also unforgiving." He nodded once. "Ray says you were kind." "She did the hard part," I said. "She told a room that didn't care she was wrong." Outside, the city did its waterlogged sparkle. Morgan and I ate cheap noodles on a curb because chairs felt like too much. She told me about her dad, a former lineman who taught her to hear a transformer's mood from a block away. I told her about my mom, who worked 2 jobs and sang along to the radio while the blender argued. "Do you miss Ray?" she asked, not flinching. "I miss the version of me I thought I was with her," I said. "The kind that didn't smell like diesel." "And now?" she asked. "Now I like how I smell," I said. And she smiled like a green light. We walked past Pike Tower. The lobby had a poster about resilience with a photo of kids drawing rainbows. I wanted to rip it down and replace it with a laminated schematic of the ATS. Morgan bumped my shoulder. "You can change the poster later," she said. "You change the panel." Back at the yard, Miguel had tacked up a piece of cardboard as art. "Commas don't reclose." I took a photo and sent it to Morgan with the caption, "That's our TED Talk." She sent back a laughing emoji, then deleted it, then sent a voice memo instead. "You were steady." So was she. So were we. A week after the last feeder quit lying, we hosted breakfast in the yard. No ribbon, no drone. Paper plates and a pot of coffee that could sand a door. The oxygen man's daughter brought muffins that forgave our taste buds. The building official said, "Good work," and meant it. The insurer nodded like approval was a deductible you'd actually pay. Ray showed up with a Tupperware of cut fruit and a look that asked for no stage. She hugged Miguel, said my name once without shaking. "I learned that stillness can be a warning," she said, "and that calendars don't keep people breathing." "Some do," I said. "Just not the kind with commas." She smiled the kind of smile that belongs to people who will be okay later. "I'm sorry," she said again. "Me too," I said, meaning different things. Morgan came late, carrying a binder and 2 donuts, on brand. She put the binder in my hands. Inside, a copy of the remediation plan, the dashboard printout, the ATS commissioning report with stamps that could testify. "For your fridge," she said. I laughed. "You give the best romantic gifts." "It's not romance," she said, then softened. "It's a reminder. The storm chose your name because you were the person who would show up and not make it about yourself." "Is that the job description?" I asked. "It's the only one that matters," she said. We walked the yard with our paper cups and the morning sun doing its best. I thought about the break room at 5:42 a.m., about suitcases and fluorescent lights and things people say when they think the future is a room with windows. I thought about stairwells and oxygen and ATS lights that lie. I thought about Morgan's voice counting hospital fuel hours like blessings. Strength, for me, is still measured in amps and restraint. It's knowing when to say no to a switch that wants to be yes. It's the kind of boring that makes for ugly videos and long lives. If you're here because someone told you your shift, the one with edges and naps, isn't a life, ask yourself this: when the storm came, whose name would it call? When the lights went out and the elevator slept, who would your building look for? What was your moment where stillness wasn't peace and you moved anyway? Tell me in the comments. Not the heroic edits, the real verbs. The time you refused to backfeed a lie. The time you carried batteries up 28 flights because there wasn't an easier answer. The time you picked boring and someone else kept breathing. I'll be here, in the yard, in the EOC, on the bucket, with a radio that doesn't need adjectives. When the next storm writes its schedule, we'll answer with names that mean something. And if it chooses mine again, I'll pick up. Not because I'm special, because I'm awake when the wind starts asking questions.